This is my first account. I'm just gonna do a Wyvern 11 run with my 3-man setup plus fodder. I've been running this for so long. I've covered this before, but it's been so long since I did a video covering that yeah, I'm just doing that now. And I have not changed the gear on this team for so long. Since the last time I did this video, like Angelica, she was built with more HP, but since HP percentage gear on the right side is quite popular, I just decided to go with double defense percentage and 1 HP percentage piece of gear on her. She's been run on speed plus defense, I believe, set. So there's that. I'm running double Daydream Joker, the usual basically. You land defense down, you deal more damage with your attacks with Daydream Joker as well. You want Taranor Guard to go first so you can actually apply defense down like he just did now. Alexa, she's just amazing, going twice every time she lands a critical hit with skill 1. Paired with Daydream Joker, she can be a 4-star hero. Taranor Guard can be... I mean, Taranor Guard could be a 4-star hero as well. But, I mean, I would... it's better, of course, you do more damage if you're like 5 or 6-star, because you will get more stats. But now, since we got the flat stat increase, you can actually go with 4-star heroes and just have flat stats on the right side for your ring. But you're gonna need, look, like it was close on her survival here, but it doesn't even matter because she can just die. She can just die, and oh wow, that was like 140 HP. Even if she dies, the offensive power of Taranor Guard plus Alexa is so high that they will destroy this barrier, and they will even deal extra damage against the boss. Like, even if defense down doesn't apply, it's yeah, they're just breaking it, so it's not an issue. Actually, it was fairly close. It was fairly close there. Maybe this team has like a 95% success rate or something like that. Like, who cares if it fails? It goes so quick. The run like lasts this was a 2-minute run, right? 2 minutes 30 seconds. You can see Alexa how much damage she's dealing. But on some runs, I mean, it's usually sub 2 minutes. It's usually sub 2 minutes. So we'll see how long this one takes. I'll go over the gear. I'll go over like other heroes that you can be running instead of these. Maybe you don't want to run heroes that you won't be able to use in other areas of the game. I mean, Taranor Guard can be used in Raid Labyrinth. You know, he can be used in the Abyss. He can be used quite a bit. But you will not successfully use him often in PvP, right? Like, you could use him. I mean, they would work better in Guild Wars versus Arena, but they're definitely not heroes that will shine in PvP. So if you want to build a hero that is Ice, because Ice is much easier to build for if your goal is to farm Wyvern 11, then yeah, you can go ahead and power up a natural 5-star hero or 4-star hero that you feel like will help you much more in terms of progression, or you don't want to waste too many resources. But the thing is, when you have a Taranor Guard Alexa plus X as your healer, I mean, it could be Angelica Montmorency holding the front line instead of Angelica, and she's much easier to obtain. You just have to go through the specialty change. Then the thing is, you can just have gear for Wyvern 11. You don't have to worry too much about it because you will not be bringing these heroes in other areas. The thing is, Taranor Guard and Alexa actually do provide a lot of camping morale when it comes down to raids and labyrinths. So do keep that in mind, because I did heavily use them in the past. You can check my videos like a few months back, and I did cover have some guides with them, so you can just go in my guides playlist and go like way down to find those out. So, I mean, it was not a loss. I did a lot of videos using Taranor Guard in the Abyss. I did progress a lot using him, and I did stick with him. And it was mostly Taranor Guard plus Silk, right? And quite a free-to-play friendly team. No limited heroes were used, so you can go check that out under my playlist as well. It's my Abyss guides and tips videos. So that was another run that was actually sub 2 minutes on that one. It was a sub 2 minute run. Wait, was it? I believe it was. It was so quick. Look at how much damage Alexa did. I mean, this is quite insane. Of course, my gear is good, but initially, you don't even need that much gear. You could just rely on a run that, you know, your defense downs are landing, everything's going your way. Your frontliner is not taking a bunch of crits, stuff like that, you know. So maybe your prophetic candlestick didn't trigger. So just small things like that. You do not lose your energy if you fail, so you don't have to worry about it. You are wasting some time, but especially if you are a free-to-play player, you don't have to worry. You will eventually just down it. You will down this boss. It might take, you might have a low success rate. Maybe it's 50% when you start off. Who cares? You're doing it. You're doing it. You're all good. As long as your energy doesn't hit that max, that limit, and you're not regenerating energy, you're all good. So yeah, there you go. Now, Alexa, wow, her CP did go up because flat stat increase. Skill up on her was only skill 1 because, as you might have noticed, I disabled the skill of Alexa and Taranor Guard. Why? It's because I just want Taranor Guard to apply defense down with his skill 1. So it has a higher uptime and the whole team will deal more damage. Well, it's going to be him and Alexa, of course. And this actually increases her damage from skill 1, but when you do land a critical hit, it will not boost the damage of that following hit because it's called Cold Edge, but it's not actually this skill. So if you power this thing up, it will not affect the guarantee extra hit that you get when you land a critical hit. But they both will work with Daydream Joker. So yeah. Now the way you build her as a 4-star, as a 5-star, as a 6-star, you don't have to worry about survival if you will be breaking the barrier. So stats that you need to aim for is you don't care about attack. Well, of course that's extra, but priority number 1 for her is hit 85% crit chance. With Daydream Joker, you'll always crit because as an ice hero, you are at elemental advantage versus fire. So 85% crit chance is what you aim for. Crit damage, you go for as much as you can get. But also something that's very important is, of course, speed. Speed boots, you want to wear speed boots on your damage dealers, on Alexa and on Taranor Guard. You can run speed boots on your frontliner, be it Angelica, be it Angelic Morancy, be it Tamarine. Like, there's so many different options. Well, it depends. It depends if you will be using a 4th hero or you're going for a 3-man setup. You can be doing a 3-man setup with a frontliner that could be like a Knight, a Crozet, you know, a Tywin, a Crow. You could just have enough survival for them to survive up until barrier number 1, and then you destroy the barrier. You shortly after that, you kill the boss before you get in trouble because you don't have sustain. Because in this particular team, we don't have any sustain to keep the frontliner alive in case it's like a Knight that doesn't apply barrier on himself, or even if it does, that's not considered like sustain because the Wyvern will break it and it will not, like, it got dispelled too. If it doesn't get fully damaged, fully consumed, it will be dispelled anyways. But you do take, it will take damage off of the barrier before dispelling. It's dealing damage then dispelling, so you are increasing your mitigation, your survival because of it, but you can't quite rely on that. Anyways, moving on, 85% crit chance, and balance your crit damage and your speed. But make sure Taranor Guard goes first because he needs to land that defense break before her, and you could end your run very shortly if you land defense break. Alexa goes, you know, and maybe Alexa goes and Taranor Guard trigger his dual attack because he's got increased dual attack because of his passive, and you can kill the Wyvern before it even goes in barrier. So that's if you have good gear, right? Even if you don't have good gear, if things are going your way, you will kill the Wyvern during barrier or shortly after. But you don't have to worry about survival stats. That's the beauty of Wyvern 11 and why it's so easy to farm. For me, this is definitely the Hunt 11 that is the easiest to farm, because you put all your survival on the frontliner. You could even go with a knight with full survival, and your fort could be just a hero that sustains your team. I'll finish showing my gear and then I'll cover some of the possibilities that you can be running. But remember that I will list some of them, but there's so many different possibilities for Wyvern 11. I'm running so much HP on Taranor Guard because at the time the ring had high speed on speed set, and I needed to beat Alexa in terms of speed so I could go first, you know. And I didn't cover what set she is running, but it's actually triple crit sets, and yeah, you get those from farming Wyvern 11 and also from crafting. So that's the thing. You could be going for, you know, speed on Taranor Guard, speed on your healer, your Soul Weaver, and you could go with the triple crit set for Alexa, so you can actually, you know, use your gear properly, so it doesn't take forever for you to gear her. But you could go with like a speed set and crit set. You don't need hit set on her, because I mean you will be relying on skill 1 with Daydream Joker, so you don't have to worry about landing poison, so don't have to worry about effectiveness on her. You know, I like to turn off her skills. Very early on, you might just have her skills on if you want to apply poison on the Wyvern, because you might want a number of debuffs so you take greatly reduced damage. 3 debuffs or more in Wyvern 11 will do much less damage, greatly less damage from the boss, which is very powerful for survival on your side. So that's the gear that I'm running. And I'm not even at 85% crit chance, but that's what you need to aim for. So there's some, like, let's say it doesn't go well, defense break is not happening, defense down debuff is not happening because, well, it's 75% chance. Or maybe because there's always a 15% chance that you will, the boss will resist, even if you counter 70% of its effect resistance with 55% effectiveness. So there's that, plus it's only 75% chance. So you can be really unlucky, and if you don't have 85% crit chance, there's always a chance you don't land crit. So if things are really not going well, you could just be in trouble and end up failing your run because you didn't break the barrier in time, and you couldn't survive the shockwave damage that follows. Okay, so the gear, I'll really show it all now. But these stats, I mean, the attack, as you might see, is low. His attack is low because he's there for applying defense down. He's there for dealing damage with Daydream Joker, and you don't need attack to deal damage with Daydream Joker. You need crit chance, 85%, so it's 100 versus fire. You need crit damage because it scales with Daydream Joker, and you need speed to go as often as possible, right? Now, here, skill 1 is to increase this to 75% chance to land defense down. The last skill up will increase his damage, and when he dual attacks, and also it increases the damage of Daydream Joker as well, so keep that in mind. The passive, I mean, it costs Molagora right now. Later it's going to cost Stigma to power up the skills of a 3-star hero. I would say you don't have to work, like, power this up all the way. It's very random, like it's RNG based, so you don't want to rely too much on that. You want to have your run stable without using this too much, really. So yeah, 10% dual attack increase, which is very powerful. You have a base of 5 on that passive, plus another 5 from skill enhancement, plus you have a 5% chance on the base, so you have a total of 15%. And I'm not gonna go over what kind of gear you could wear on each of your heroes. To be honest, like you could be running broken sets, you can be running anything as long as you meet the stats. Just sets will make you hit those targets earlier. Now, increasing combat readiness of the whole team by 25% is quite huge. I mean, of course, it will increase your success rate early on when you're in the struggles to actually deal damage, or even like your healer, your frontliner, it could be yeah, your Soul Weaver in the front line will be getting combat readiness because of the dual attack that he's triggering, meaning that you'll be able to just sustain your frontliner easier. Like all of this thing works to help the team. And the increased attack buff, I mean, it's extra, but it does help, but you're not going to be relying on that too much. And you turn off your skills because you don't need to use this because you can't even decrease combat readiness of the boss, of the Wyvern. So yeah. Speed set and crit set is what I have for him. To be honest, you can be running triple hit set on him, right? But I mean, you'll have too much effectiveness. You could have no effectiveness on all your gear and purely rely on 3 hit sets. That, you know, or you could go double crit, 1 hit. You could go 1 crit, 2 hit. You could go speed hit. You could go speed crit. If you're gonna stick with the sets from Wyvern, because assuming you are just going for it, you're rushing for it, that's the first hunt that you're going to farm, then I'm just gonna talk about those sets, right? So moving on to Angelica, like I said, like Daydream Joker is super useful. You'll deal a lot of damage. The majority of your damage might just come from Daydream Joker, especially if you have low attack. If your heroes are 4 or 5 stars, then Daydream Joker will provide the highest amount of damage increase. So enhance those, right? Enhance those and put the best one on Alexa Taranor Guard, as you might have seen. Deals much less damage than her, like 2 to even 3, even 4 times less damage than Alexa in some cases. So remember that. Sometimes he might do half her damage. Sometimes he even do 2/3 of her damage because he just keeps on dual attacking. It's quite insane when it does happen, and your runs could be like let's say my runs are usually like 2 minutes, right? It might, I've had some runs where I kill the boss in like sub 1 minute, or it might have been very close or around to 1 minute because of the crazy amount of dual attacks that was happening. Okay, Angelica, I mean, you don't have to use her though, but I mean, that's the stats that I have for her. Most players just go pure HP, but I can say this to you, you need to balance your stats. It's much easier to survive, you know? So I'll go over her gear. She does have some skill enhancement. So yeah, I did do those skill enhancement very early on when the stages 11 got released. But that's the gear that I have on her. You know, this is just a rare, but the efficiency of those rolls and all these things she can use, but all the effectiveness she can't use in against the boss, can stun, but for PvP, let's say, I don't really bring her in PvP. This is a build that is more for PvE, and yeah, that's the gear that I have for her. So speed and defense set. This ring was part of an event. We got it for free. I mean, we had to spend some currency. This neck was just like a drop from Golem 11, and like it's not really good. It's not really good. If I look at these pieces, you know, there's crit chance here. I don't care. Effect resistance, I don't care about that. So this item, the efficiency of this item for Wyvern farming, Wyvern 11, is it's not so good. I do have the defense set that I use the defense, right? The speed is used, but the crit damage is wasted, the attack is wasted. The effect resistance is, it's not pure, like fully wasted, because the Wyvern can reduce your combat readiness of your frontliner if you don't resist. So it can happen, but since I have 50%, it's not that much. Really, to resist all the time, you need something like 150% effect resistance. So it's definitely not much what I have. Here again, like there's effectiveness, we don't need that. Effect resistance, let's not even think about it. So these pieces, effect resistance, effectiveness, a lot of stats are just going to waste. So it's very easy to gear for this boss. And if you're struggling early on, you just bring a fort member in your team and just have a Soul Weaver to help you survive. If you have your Angelica in the front line, if you have Angelic Montmorency, just have a 4 to simplify things. Look at effect resistance, again, it's just not doing anything, or it's not helping much at all, because it's very random, because the amount is too low. You need something like, it's not even 150, I believe it's 180 something that you need to like always resist. It's ridiculous. You don't have to worry about that. But the healing from her skill 2 is insane. Angelica, she double dips. Like it double dips, it double heals her because she's the only one that is unhealthy on the team, right? But if there's damage that is spread across your team, she will spread that healing. It will hit like herself plus another member, then you do lose half its strength. The barrier, the damage is dealt, and then if there's still some barrier, it gets dispelled. The immunity, I mean, you could, it could stick right before it gets dispelled, assuming the barrier didn't get consumed from an attack. But it will not really help. It's about the healing, in most cases. Prophetic Candlestick is huge, I don't even have my plus 30 Candlestick on her, and you can do it just fine with plus 15. Candlestick with this allows you to just keep on using it. It's crazy good. So that covers the team. I did speak for a long time about it. Sorry about that. It's just for players that might like struggle with Wyvern 11 still. If I go through the heroes here, ice heroes. So really you could build a Wyvern 11 team with pretty much any ice heroes, as long as, so there's 2 easy ways to do it, is have a knight in the front line plus have a Soul Weaver in the back line sustaining it, or you could go with a double Soul Weaver setup. You have your bulkier one in the front line that will take the punch, especially if you have a Soul Weaver that has better defense, base defense and base HP, and you feel like the other Soul Weaver can output more healing in the back. And a healer in the back just needs high speed, right? It needs high speed, and an artifact that could help is, of course, Rod of Amaryllis. But the frontliner should be ran on Prophetic Candlestick. That's the easiest one to obtain. You could have Water's Origin if you're going to be taking 20% of your HP or more, and then you do get 8% back. You do get combat cheeriness between 15 and 20%. So it does lower the survival stats quite considerably when you run Water's Origins. Keep that in mind as well. Now, really, like, you could literally use any of these, right? I mean, you wouldn't go with double knights. You'd go with, like, it could be a knight plus Soul Weaver in the back plus 2 damage dealers. But if you're going for a 3-man setup, you initially you would go with a Soul Weaver, right? You'd go with a Soul Weaver that can actually sustain itself. So Angelic Montmorency or Angelica are the popular choices. Angelica is easier to gear for because her stats, her base stats are like, she's got some crazy base stats. Like in terms of defense, her defense is really high. That's a reason why I went with double defense gear, double defense percentage gear on the right side and 1 HP percentage. But I was able to still get quite a bit of HP percentage on my substats, but nothing crazy. Yeah, you saw like there was so many stats that were wasted on her. I just put some like some subpar gear that I had laying around, because before she had better gear, right? But then it's like I kind of like lowered, and you saw in one of the attempt, like she was like almost dead. She had like 140 HP. So I just like, maybe you have not checked your gear for a long time on your team, and you might be able to take some good gear to put it on some of your heroes that you use more often, and just like put some subpar gear on some of those heroes. But I mean, you could have Tamarine in the front line. You could have like a Kates in the back line healing, you know, especially now that with skill 2, she lowers skill cooldown by 1 turn. That is super helpful. You could even have Shooting Star at Kates. I did it, like I brought her to level her as my 4th, and she was a 4-star or like 5-star, and she's balancing her HP. She's at max HP in the back, and she balanced her HP with the frontliner, brings the hero back to full, even if she has like 3k HP when she's like at 100%. She will bring the hero to 200% of their HP, even if they have 25,000 HP, something like that, you know. So that's worth considering. Many different possibilities. Best heroes are the ones that will heal based on the target's max HP. If that's a hero that's going to be in the back line, so you can heal your frontliner with like that is more bulky for bigger amounts. And the healer in the backline with Rod of Amaryllis is going to do beautifully. You could have Celestine on a hero that uses skill 1 quite often. I mean, you could have Blaze Dingo as your support healer, right? I mean, he just heals proportional to the damage dealt. This triggers skill 1, and also if he has Celestine, because he's a Soul Weaver, he can help quite a bit. You know, and he does quite a bit of damage as well. Of course, he's not ice, so you will be giving combat readiness to the boss, so that's something you have to watch out for. And I would say that ice is definitely the way to go, just safer. Ether, I didn't talk about him yet, but I said it in videos before. It's been so long though, but you could have Ether as a 4-star hero in the backline with I mean, decent speed, right? Decent speed. And you don't even need Rod of Amaryllis. But if you do have it, it will, of course, increase his healing output. And that could be enough for you to just keep your Angelica, your Angelic Montmorency, whoever in the front line. You can have Ether heal your bulky knight in the front line. So many different ways to go about it. It's actually very easy. As soon as you understand like mechanics, and you reach those milestones in terms of survival, in terms of damage dealt, when you get the numbers down and you deal enough damage to break that barrier, you know, like things like that. If it's very early on, you could just use your Guardian. You could have your run on auto, and then you watch out. And you're during barrier and you just pop your Guardian. This could be what allows you to just pull through. And it could be your 3-man setup, it could be your 4-man setup. And actually, using the Guardian increases your crit chance by 20%, increases the first Guardian, Arcasis, and also increases your attack by 20%. So it's a bit of stat boost as well for your damage dealers during the barrier phase. So that's something that maybe you want to know, because it could be that thing that increases your success rate to almost 100% if you just pay attention for a few seconds and you just hit it, right? So there's that. And for heroes, I mean, how can I sort this? Like Sigrid, she got buffed, she deals so much damage, very powerful. Of course, limited hero Luna. I mean, heroes like that are 5-star, you will have more investment into them, you'll have better gear, you'll have skill ups into them, so it's gonna make things so much easier. Like you could have your Crow in the front line, you could have I mean your healer, you don't even need healers, right? But yeah, you could have Angelica, you could have Ether as your healer, you could have Angelic Montmorency. In the back line for your healer, I would say like Angelic Montmorency like does provide some pretty crazy healing output. So yeah, definitely use her because she just needs a specialty change and she's amazing. Now, other ways to deal with the boss would be you could go with like Craw in the front line, a Knight in the front line that would survive long enough, and you could have like a Ranger with Bloodstone. Like a Ranger with Bloodstone is another way to just have some healing going toward your frontliner to just keep them alive a bit longer, so they are able to survive up until barrier, or I mean just before barrier happens. If they die then, I mean they might have done their job because you're able to just destroy the barrier and kill the Wyvern shortly after. On some runs you might be lucky with dual attacks and all that, and you might kill the Wyvern before it even goes in the barrier phase. Things like that. I mean, a Ranger like Seaside Balloon, that's a limited hero, but like on Bloodstone, she deals, she does heal quite a bit, but Daydream Joker on damage dealers is really like the way to go if you want to output as much damage as possible. And like I said, 85% crit chance on ice or 100% on other elements, and as much crit damage as possible, as much speed as possible to really increase your damage output using Daydream Joker. And you don't have to have 4-star heroes, but if you are bringing 6-star heroes, of course you will want to just have them at the, well, they will be 5-star, but if you bring them to 6-star, because you probably will, because you'll bring them in other content of the game, then it's going to be much easier. Like Dizzy, another limited hero of course, but like her debuffs makes the whole thing so easy. I even have a video with Dizzy as the frontliner plus Taranor Guard and Alexa. There's no healer in the run, and her debuffs just provide that survival boost that allows me to just kill the Wyvern and just take the hit before she gets killed. And decrease attack is huge. Decrease hit chance doesn't actually work against bosses in the hunts. It will not make them miss. They cannot miss. But it acts as a debuff. So if you're trying to hit for 3 debuffs on the Wyvern, it will greatly lower its damage. So keep that in mind. That's why I said you might have the skills of Alexa turned on early on. So you might be able with the like double poison plus defense down might be what you needed to just lower the damage of the boss, allowing your frontliner to survive the incoming damage up until the barrier phase, and then during barrier, your frontliner can just sustain itself, can just heal itself back up enough for the next rounds of attacks after the barrier, assuming you haven't broken it and you haven't killed the boss. Even DN can be used. Like, there's so many like videos of different builds of players doing content with insane gear. Everything can work. That's like almost everything can work in this game. But if you want to do it as fast as possible, as early as possible with the lowest amount of gear, then you will of course go with ice heroes. That's just the way to go because of how it works. And you deal more damage, you receive less damage, and you don't give combat readiness to the boss, which is a major plus, especially when you're running with low amounts of speed. Then it's going to make a major difference. You could even have Yuna's free connection hero. You can have Yuna with like Bloodstone, even helping you survive. Those buffs will help, and I mean, different ways to go about it. Says always landing on healable debuff. This could account for one of the debuff that you want on your team out of the 3 if you're trying to considerably lower the amount of damage output of the boss. Chloe's insane with her damage, you know, but the problem is that she's not been super useful in multiple areas of the game, but she's definitely a boss killer. And now we have the custom skills, right? We can just enhance skills from the Hall of Trials, and I mean, she is much better now with these as well, so definitely a worthy hero for Wyvern 11. And then you can use her in other areas as well if you have her powered up. So yeah, it's really about using the monsters that you have in your box. And for the 4 stars, I mean, there's Furious that is free. So much damage that can be dealt with this hero. I mean, he's just amazing. Connection hero. You got the decreased defense. You got the crit chance increase, so you could build your team around the crit chance increase, 50% crit boost, meaning that since you need 85% on ice heroes, you could just rock 35% crit chance on your whole team and rely on this crit buff, considerably lowering the stat requirement on your team, allowing you to just pump more speed, more effectiveness if you need to land debuffs. I mean, you need to reach only 55%, so it's not that much. But you could have more speed, you could have more attack, you could have more crit damage. All these things allowing you to just kill the boss faster. And I mean, burn, some damage increase there. Some additional damage, but this is only gonna last, well, it lasts 2 turns, right? So this could be a debuff, but the chance to trigger it is too low. But when you have 1 turn left on burn, and also on poison, it doesn't account for it will deal the damage before the boss actually goes. So if you had 3 debuffs including burn and poison, and then the boss goes, the damage will be dealt off of burn and poison before it goes, meaning that you will not greatly reduce the damage of the Wyvern. So yeah, keep that in mind as well. But he is insanely powerful, and he is also a ranger. He's also a ranger, meaning you can have Bloodstone on him if you want him to like sustain your team. But Daydream Joker is usually the way to go if you just want to deal as much damage as possible, as fast as possible. You can have, I mean, any knight that is ice, you can have them as your frontliner for Wyvern 11, right? You have them in the front line, and you have a Soul Weaver keeping them alive. If they do provide a debuff, that's a major plus, because I mean, it could account for one of the debuff that gets applied on the boss, and that would, if you have a tag break like Basque or Crozet do apply a tag break, it will make your frontliner take much less damage, and it will be much easier to survive. Anyways, enough talking about all this, but